I'm John Ley. I've been a Clark County resident for over 3 decades. I served 11 and a half years in the Air Force, then 31 and a half years as a Delta Airlines pilot. I got involved in the Columbia River crossing debacle a decade ago, just showing up at town hall meetings trying to learn more about what was being proposed. I volunteered to help several local citizens and pretty soon became the local Clark County expert on transportation. Whether it's the interstate bridge, whether it's mass transit, TriMet, Portland, C-Tran here in Clark County, tolling, all of those issues impact people in coming and going where they want to be, the price of that transportation system, and so many facets of what we do to get around.
Hey, John, thanks so much for meeting with me today.
Joe, good morning. Great to see you. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Please have a seat. How would the toll that Marie Perez proposed affect Washington commuters?
It's going to be unbelievably harmful. Roughly 75 to 80,000 Southwest Washington citizens commute to work in Oregon. They're going to be paying the overwhelming burden of the tolls. And you're looking at, in the old CRC, they said $2,000 a year out of families' budgets. That harms hardworking, low and middle income families the most. And clearly, there's another facet of this that doesn't get discussed, and that's the fact that Oregon wants to add additional tolls. They want to charge for every single mile you drive on I-5, I-205, I-84, all the Portland freeways. Local economist Joe Courtwright already ran some numbers and figures every single day for a round trip from Vancouver to Wilsonville could be $28 to $31
Per day.
per day. Can you imagine how that will kill local families' budgets? Unbelievably ridiculous.
How do Clark County residents feel about light rail?
County residents have already rejected light rail multiple times at the ballot box. They don't want it. It won't serve them. Portland's yellow line on the MAX travels only 14 miles an hour. Who wants to travel that slow? High-speed rail is an interesting concept that serves nobody. It would follow the exact same line as the current Amtrak service. We already have rail service and nobody's riding it. Amtrak service ridership fell 70 to 80% in the pandemic, and it's only slowly returning. They don't expect it to return to pre-pandemic levels anytime this decade. The Washington State Legislature's already allocated $200 million to study something that very few people ride. Furthermore, nobody's going to ride it. They're going to have to build another bridge or another crossing of the Columbia River for that high-speed rail line. It will serve very few people. We need more bridges for cars and trucks and people to use, not more bridges for trains.
What are some of the concerns you have with the cost of Marie Perez's plan for the bridge?
The current proposal is ridiculous on so many levels. They want to spend $7.5 billion. An easy comparison is Hood River. They are currently talking about replacing the bridge over the Columbia River and Hood River for $520 million. Clearly, if you can build a bridge over the Columbia River for $520 million, you don't need to spend $7.5 billion here in Vancouver. The bridge in Hood River is longer in terms of the width of the river there in Hood River compared to this. More importantly, the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program has already said replacing this bridge, the bridge itself is only $500 million. It's a fraction of the whole cost.
So is light rail better for the environment?
Short answer, no. When light rail is carrying so few people, it's not serving the environment. It's not taking people out of cars. When they're running empty, it's actually harming the environment. Another aspect of this whole project is if the goal is to take people out of cars, buses, C-Tran bus rapid transit service would cost $50 million instead of the $2 billion they want to spend on light rail. Additionally, when they refuse to add lanes, when you have half of rush hour traffic stuck traveling 0 to 20 miles an hour, that's worse for the environment. That's worse for traffic congestion. It's worse for our freight haulers.
Do you think express lanes could be part of the solution for the I-5 bridge?
Express lanes are an interesting concept because in the handling traffic perspective, In the morning, everybody is going into town, and in the afternoon, they're coming the other way. Seattle built an express lane specifically to handle that traffic congestion during peak travel times. It could be a wonderful idea if Portland was willing to actually add vehicle capacity in the area. You could make a switchable lane, couple of lanes that took people into Portland in the morning and took them out in the afternoon. Added capacity is actually the solution to this problem.
What do you believe is the best solution for the I-5 bridge?
We have a historic bridge. It's on the National Historic Register. An easy answer is not to destroy this historic bridge, but to repurpose it. Make a local connection for people to get to and from Hayden Island and into North Portland. You could build a separate, if you will, express freeway connecting Portland to the Marine Drive area of Portland and let all the through traffic on the freeway use that, and local people could use our historic bridge, number one. Number two, the 2008 RTC visioning study identified the need for 2 additional bridges over the Columbia River, one west of I-5 and one east of I-205. You could take the $7.5 billion and build both bridges east of 205 and west of I-5 and have other money to do needed transportation projects here in the 3rd Congressional District. We need to better use this money for the people of Southwest Washington.
John, thank you very much for this discussion today.
Joe, my pleasure. Good luck in your campaign.
Thank you. One of the most pressing local issues in our district is the replacement of the I-5 bridge. The I-5 is critical for our local, regional, and national economies. It is critical to ensure that this vital transportation route is safe and prepared for any natural disasters. We need a plan that's fiscally responsible and supported by the voters in this district. Voters in Clark County have rejected light rail 3 times because it will transport Portland's crime straight into the heart of Southwest Washington. Marie Perez is on the record supporting light rail that voters in Clark County have repeatedly rejected. She's also in favor of tolls that will disproportionately affect Washingtonians. This is a clear federal issue, yet Perez is advocating for light rail and deferring to Pete Buttigieg for leadership. We need to get urgent repairs done to the current bridge while construction of the new bridge is underway. We should adjust for additional traffic and ensure the bridge is high enough for commercial vessels below. Thank you to John Ley for educating us about the I-5 bridge, and thank you for watching this episode of Get Local with Joe, a series where I talk to people in the community about our local issues. You can support my campaign at joekentforcongress.com.